it's Jen, and thanks for joining me. Today I'm doing some throwback cards, and I'm calling it Throwback because I am using an old card kit. So this one is My Hero Arts from January 2017, and it's a Valentine's themed or love themed card kit. And I got it out to see if I can make some different cards, different seasonal cards. And this is a really good kit for doing that. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this. So it came with this stamp set and the dies, and it also came with some wood grain textured paper and a few of the color cubes for My Hero Arts. So the first card I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, one of the big hearts, and it's the solid, it's not the pattern. I don't know how else to describe the stamps. It's one of the layering stamps. I'm going to use the solid. And so I'm just going to take that and put it on my acrylic block. And I'm taking Zig Clean Color markers. This one is gray. And I'm just going to color over my stamp and then spritz it with water and then just move that around with my finger. And I'm going to go ahead and do this several times over the paper, because I don't want the white border that the die cut leaves, so I can't just do a heart shape, the stamp heart shape. I have to do kind of several so that that die will fit on the paper and not leave that white border, because I don't want the white border. So I do this several times with the gray, and then I go ahead and take the blue, and I believe it's cobalt blue, and do the same thing. And this is actually the second one that I made when I was kind of messing around testing to see if I like this or not. I made another heart, which I end up using in the card. I end up using them both. For some reason I didn't like the way this turned out. I think it's because in the sample that I did before I started filming, I used a different kind of paper, and it was actually just like a cheaper cardstock paper. This, I believe, is Bristol. And so it just looked different, the texture, than the other sheet. So I end up using both. So I'm going to take a piece of paper out of this DCWV 8x8 paper pad. And it's just some really small cursive writing and kind of a gray tone. And I'm also going to take a gray piece of cardstock that's adhesive. And I'm going to take the gray cardstock and take my rectangle die and use to cut out a L shape. So the cardstock is going to be in an L shape on my card base, and so here I'm just trying to get it even around both sides. I don't know if I was successful at that. I think the bottom's slightly bigger than the side, but I'm okay with that. And so I had a little bit of hard time getting the washi tape off of my die and my paper. So like I said, that's going to be on my card base, and then I'm going to take the pattern paper, which I've already cut down, and I'm going to take the sentiment stamp, which says, I believe it says Sending My Love, and I'm using a gray color from Close to My Heart, and I'm just going to do that all over this paper. I like the text on text look. I like particularly when you use stamps with a text or a newspaper background. I think it looks really cool. So that's kind of what I did for this one. And so now I'm going to take my adhesive cardstock and adhere that to my card base. And there ends up being a little bit of a white border, which I didn't want on the right hand side. So I go ahead and trim that off. And then I'm going to adhere the pattern paper in the empty space on the card. So I'm just going to use my tape runner and run that on my card base. And then I will go ahead and place that and trim off the excess paper. And in the corner, the upper right hand corner, you can see the two hearts. The top heart is the one that was my sample piece, which I ended up liking better. I think the gray is a little darker and the blue is a little, I don't know if it's darker or not. It just went better on that paper for some reason. And so I like that better. So I do end up taking, because the one heart I had to cut it by hand because I actually didn't do the same method as I did with the second heart that I showed in the video. So I'm just going to use these little foam squares. And these are really thin, and I think they're fairly old because some of them don't even stick anymore, but they're really thin. I didn't want to use the really thick higher ones or have to cut them, so I went with the thin ones. I didn't want it popped up too much. And then this is going to be my sentiment strip. I'm going to use some Ice Spruce Distress Oxide ink, and I am just going to blend that on my paper. And then I also take, I believe it's Salty Ocean. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I take Salty Ocean also, and I go over the gray. I'm just trying to get it to match a little bit to the gray cardstock and the heart, which is shades of gray and blue. And then I'm going to heat emboss this. So I'm taking my sentiment, which is the same, it's Sending My Love, and use my Versamark. And then I'm using black embossing powder. And so I go ahead and put that on my sentiment, and then I will melt that with my heat gun. And then I pop that up on my card. And then I will go ahead and take the hearts and place that on the card and adhere that with my tape runner. And then I'm going to take some stickles, and I will have to see what color I used. I don't recall. Oh, actually I take some Wink of Stella first. This is where my my clear Wink of Stella pen explodes. I thought it was running out, and so I squeezed it, and it just I got out a little bit more than I wanted. So there's that part in the right hand corner that's just a lot of glitter in one place. So I go ahead and get my stickles out, and I'm just going to do that all around the L-shaped border. Just kind of dot it in random pattern. And that pretty much finishes this card off. It's pretty simple, and I think it's kind of elegant. I like the grays and the blues together, so I think it's really pretty, other than that massive amount of sparkle on it. So that is the first card. So that's kind of a traditional card for the kit. This next one is a little bit different. I am going to take one of the dies, which is actually a die for one of the flowers, and I'm going to take some masking paper from Inka Dinka Doo. And here I show which stamp or which die which stamp the die goes with. And so I cut out 2 circles, and I go ahead and adhere those to my card base. And then I'm going to do a little bit of spray ink. So this is a DIY spray ink. It's just I believe it's just water and Wilton's food coloring. So this is golden yellow, and the colors are really bright with the Wilton's food coloring. And I have these pizza boxes, like the single, I think the pasta and stuff comes in them. I have kept several of them for projects. I think they'd be kind of neat to decorate. And so I thought this would be perfect for the spray. So I go ahead and this is a watercolor cardstock. It's Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock. So I go ahead and wet it down with water first, and then I spray it. And then I heat it with my heat gun. And when you heat it with the heat gun, that adhesive on the masking paper tends to peel up a little bit. So I went ahead and held that down with acrylic block. And that's the stamp that I'm going to use, the one that I just showed. So that's the first stamp I'm going to use. It's traditionally in the kit, it's supposed to be used for the flower stem. I'm going to be using it for legs. So I'm making 2 lovebirds. So I'm using Memento Black ink to stamp out the legs, and I'm just doing one slightly higher or lower than the other. And so I'm going to do that twice, or actually 4 times for 4 legs. And then on the one on the left hand side, that's going to be the guy. And so I take the leaf stamp, the veins of the leaf from the kit, and I go ahead, I'm giving him a little mohawk, again in black Memento ink. And then after this, I'll go ahead and remove the masks. Or no, actually I do the lips first. So I'm using the strawberry ink that came in the kit, and I'm taking the smallest heart from the kit, and I'm going to go ahead and give them both some big lips. And I must not have been thinking about bird anatomy when I did this, because, I mean, not like it's lifelike anyhow, but because I gave them both lips and also a nose. Towards the end, I gave them a nose. And after I did that and I looked at it, I was like, no, 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 that's not right, Jen. It's all one part. So I should have just left the lips. I didn't want to remove the beaks, as you can see later when I put them on. So I just left them. I think it's fine. It's just kind of kooky, I guess. So next I'm going to take the solid from the double layer stamp and use my distress ink. And so this is peacock feathers. No, I don't use peacock feathers. I use, I think it's marmalade. Marmalade Distress Oxide ink. I didn't want to use blue and pink, so I didn't want to use traditional colors for the girl and the boy, because I wanted it to be either, you know, depending on who you give the card to. So I used an orange and I think it's marmalade and cracked pistachio. So the stamp, or the mask, is from the die cut, which does leave that white border, and so when you stamp it, it's going to leave a little bit of a white border. So all I did was take a little bit of water on my paintbrush and blended that out, and I went ahead and I did that for both. And then I took another flower stamp from the kit, and I gave them their wings. And so I take an orange close to my heart color, and then I think it's kind of like a tealish or Tidewater color from the kit, the little cube from my Hero, or Hero Arts. And then I'm going to do, and there was a fly that just kept bugging me that day. So I'm going to put a bunch of hearts, and then I will stamp, I believe I stamped a sentiment, but I don't show it on camera. I just use my positioning tool. And then I'm going to take one of the dies from the kit, because I don't trust myself to make an even circle, so I'm using it as a stencil somewhat, or a template, to make some circle stitch lines around the hearts. And then I'm going to take some blue spritz spray, again this is DIY, and water it down a little bit, and I'm going to use that to ground the two birds. And next, I believe my video cuts out somewhere around here. I always try and pay attention. My video or my phone runs out of space, and so I have to either remove stuff or delete stuff. So usually I have to get everything off that I don't want on there, and then delete it. So here's where I put on the beaks, and as you can tell, it looks kind of goofy, but yeah. So now I'm going to do the eyes. So I'm taking the Ranger White and the Ranger Black. I cannot think of the name of these. I think they're called enamel something. I don't know. So I'm going to do the white for the eyes, and then for the black, I'm just going to put that down on a piece of paper and take a toothpick. Because it's so small, I probably would have messed it up if I hadn't done it with a toothpick, because I just want just a tiny little dot. Much more than that would have spread the eye out too much. So I go ahead and do that to both, and I think the video cuts out. I do end up using glossy accents around all of the hearts, and then also I use a scallop die to run that through. And it's funny because I ran this through my Big Shot, and it's flattened out the eyes, and it looked fine, and then I came back the next day and they were poofy again, so that was kind of interesting. But that's card number 2. So card number 3, this is my absolute favorite. I really love how this turned out. I'm using a piece of the textured wood grain paper that came in the kit, and I'm just going to hand draw a tree, and because this is going to be a fall themed card. And there's a sentiment in this kit that says something about thankful hearts, or I can't even think of the sentiment. Oh my goodness. But that's the sentiment I use on this card, and it's kind of a good stamp sentiment for a love card, or it could work as a fall card or like a Thanksgiving card, and so I thought it fit perfect. So I just go ahead and pencil out the tree, and then I'm going to cut it out, and I spend a decent amount of time cutting this out. I don't know why I left all of this in here. I think it's because I cut it out and then I ended up cutting it some more off of my lines, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. So I go ahead and I cut that out, and then I do end up taking my eraser and removing most of the, or all of the pencil lines. And this paper is awesome, and it just worked perfectly for this card. All the wood grain and the knot holes, I just think it was really neat. And so here I'm trying to make it not look so uniform and blocky. So I just kind of continue to cut the branches to kind of get them to be a little bit more realistic and not so cut off. And so I mess around to try and get the shapes right, and then I go ahead and I split some of the branches so they're not so thick. I think right now it just looks a little too uniform and not as random, I guess, as a tree should look. I probably should have had a picture or something, but so here's where I go ahead and I start cutting off a little bit more so it's not so similar to, you know, so just so that it's a little more random, I guess. So I go ahead and mess around with that for a little bit. And then to color it, at first I use a watercolor pencil. I just got some watercolor pencils from Hobby Lobby, kind of an off-brand. And so I'm using the brown. And so I just use that all over the texture. And I think this looks kind of cool, but after I do my background, or I don't think it matched my background necessarily, and so I do end up darkening it up towards the end of the card video. So I'm just taking the side of my pencil and kind of running it over, kind of like you did when you were a kid, to get a pattern to show up. I'm just using the side of it. And then I'm going to take my watercolor brush and go over it and kind of blend out the color a little bit. And this is really cool paper. I think I have 2 pieces left. But the card kit for August for My Hero Arts, I can't wait to get it. Hopefully it'll be here tomorrow. It's coming from California, and that's what tracking said. So I am so excited for the kit. It looks really awesome. And I know it's sold out within a few days, and so I really like the kit. It has a lot of stuff in it, and it just looks like something you can make a lot of really nice cards with. So I can't wait to get that. And then the Simon Says stamp kit should be coming out soon. Also, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get that. I don't know. They haven't put a preview up as far as I know yet. So next I'm going to take the solid leaf stamp, and I'm going to blend 2 colors. So I'm just going to take one color and then kind of and then rub it on the ink pad of the other, so there's not like a line, so it's kind of a blended. So I do that with the red and kind of an orange, and then I do it with a yellow and a brown, and then a yellow and an orange. And I don't end up using all of these leaves, and that's where my video cut out. So I take the veins stamp for the leaves, and I put that on, and then I cut all those out with the die cut. And then here I'm taking some walnut stain, just a Distress Oxide, just to darken up the tree a little bit. I didn't want, after looking at it, I didn't want there to be so much white space, I guess. And so I think this just kind of finishes the tree off. So I go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to work on the background for the tree and the leaves. But first, I'm going to take the smallest heart stamp again, and I was trying to decide if I want to do a red heart or a black, and I think the black worked better, so I'm using my memento, and I'm putting the heart kind of in a knot that's in the tree pattern. And so here I'm going to do my background for the card, my background card panel. So I'm using just Distress inks, mustard seed, oh goodness, a red, and then a kind of a yellowish brown. Let's see, which one is that? It looks like pale honey maybe, mustard seed, and then a red color, and I have to see if I can get that color. So I'm just blending that. This is a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I'm taking my blending tool and I'm starting out with the red and kind of going over so there are no lines, so it blends fairly smoothly. And there are a little bit of splotches on there, mainly the red color. It looks like I kind of pressed it down too hard. And then I'm going to put a fair amount of water and I let it sit. As you can see, it's kind of, it almost looks like it bubbles up or something like that. And I'm going to take a paper towel. I probably let that sit for about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and just smooth it across. Lay that on top of the card and smooth it across. And I really love the pattern that is the end result. So I go ahead and I adhere my tree to the card panel and adhere most of the leaves. I'm just adhering the leaves with some multimedia matte. And I think the background is my favorite part of this card. I just think it looks really fall-like. But I just like the way the random pattern of the Distress inks. So the sentiment is a thankful heart, and I'm taking my brown Distress Oxide. I think it might be walnut stain, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp that using my Hampton Arts stamping tool. So I stamped that twice, and then I'm going to use some, I think it's called Poly Clear Sparkle. It's a Ranger product, and I think it's fairly old. I got it at a yard sale or something, but it just leaves not so much of a glitter, but more of a sparkle maybe. And you might not be able to tell on the camera, but it just leaves like just the right amount of sparkle. And then so I go over the leaves with my Clear Wink Estella, and that finishes off this card. I had a great time making these cards, like most of the cards I make. I just love it because I just enjoy the whole process. So that was the final card. Here are just a few ideas for different things you can do with the stamps that are in this collection. So if you wanted to make either like a Christmas tree or an Easter tree, there is just a straight stem in the stamp set. And I just went ahead and made a long kind of middle branch, and then I'm just taking it and making some side branches. And I just go do this across the whole, I don't know what you call it, tree, I guess. And then I'm just stamping up a small portion of the stamp just to put some little branches. But like I said, I think this is a great stamp set for many more occasions than what it actually was made for. So then I'm going to take the circle stamp, the solid, and I'm going to stamp up some, like I said, it could either be for Easter, an Easter tree, or it could be a Christmas tree, so it could be a Christmas card or an Easter card. So I go ahead and stamp up each of the little balls a couple of times. And I was going to make these cards, and then I think I just ran out of steam more than anything. I give great kudos to the people that do the 10 cards. That is a tremendous amount of creativity and thought, and more work than it actually, I mean, it goes by in like 20-30 minutes, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. So I'm taking, for the base of this, I'm just taking the little vase stamp, and I'm stamping it up about halfway. I don't want the whole vase, and so I stamp it up about halfway. And then I'm going to take a black micron pen and just draw in. So you could color this in, or, and then also if you turn that upside down like that, it could be a lampshade. I don't know why you might need a lampshade in a card, but you could. So so this next kind of little idea I'm gonna do is for Halloween, with that coming up fairly soon. The little jar stamps is perfect for Halloween, so you could put eyeballs, and I actually saw these on Pinterest, and I thought it would be perfect for this stamp set because there is a jar. And so I'm just drawing some eyeballs and then just like a water line at the top. And in the next one I draw some candy corns. And if you have stamp sets that are small enough that would fit in there, I mean, even better. I don't believe that I have any that would work with this, but I don't know, maybe I would. I would have to go through my stash and look. And then in the last jar, I just draw some spiders. But this jar could be used for Christmas. I saw on Pinterest some snowman in jars and other things in jars, candies, gumballs. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I love making it, and I think I say that about every video, but I really do enjoy it, and so I hope you enjoy it. So if you would like to see more videos, please go ahead and click that subscribe, and if you found some information in this video useful or you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. I hope to see you next time, and I hope to be able to do some more cards with the upcoming My Hero Arts August kit. I'm looking forward to that, and I look forward to seeing you back. Thanks. Bye.